Hey, world. Oh, shit. I was supposed to say, hello, world. How are you?
Hey, guys.
I need a little script.
Yeah, you need a sign.
Is it like as many times as we've done this, I feel like I need a little prompt or scroller. Oh, yeah. I forgot my phone part. Hey, everyone. Kim Treacy with Big Red SEO, and this is
Conor, Treacy.
We're coming to you guys live as a married husband and wife couple.
Good to do that.
As you guys can tell, there is no lights in the back. Funny story. We've been dealing with this for, is it 3 months? 2 months? 3 months now?
About that. Yeah.
Roughly. And what happens is as we work through, hey, Casey, how are you? As we work through our day, like certain lights pop on, certain lights pop off. And today, I think we have 3 lit, and that's it. So we need to write a note for each other to bring the ladder because we keep forgetting. We have light bulbs, we have the replacements, but we keep forgetting the ladder, and both of us are too short to just like reach up and change it.
So every time, yeah, both of us are way too short for that. But every time we do the Facebook Lives, of course, there's always a light on, and then it blurs everything out.
Yeah.
So we're going to try today. We've swapped up where the desk is for a live Facebook Live or YouTube Live, whatever you're watching this.
This is Facebook Live.
This is
so
Facebook.
We have, we're actually facing the beautiful window, so we're kind of hoping our neighbor walks out, and then we could like wave goodbye to him. Like he's a super cool neighbor. Like we have a lot of cool neighbors.
I guess somebody's hoping for that.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so thanks so much for joining us this week. This was a holiday week, so I'm not sure how you guys did, but I think overall we did pretty good with the holiday being in the middle of the week. Hey, Chris, how are you? Thanks for joining, everyone. But I will say it kind of threw some things off a little bit.
Holiday in the middle of the week and shutting down. I mean, that for me, it was a nightmare.
Yeah. Do you want to expand upon that?
I had to rush to get everything done Monday and Tuesday so that I could leave on Wednesday.
I like crack the whip.
And then rush yesterday because, oh my God, it's the end of the week. And I lost 10 hours in the middle of the whole thing.
Right.
So, and now today is Friday.
Today is Friday.
Yeah.
But it's not Friday the 13th. That's next week.
Awesome. Can't wait.
So it's interesting because like during holidays, we've been doing this gig right at 8 years now, but we used to never take holidays off. And this year was the first year that we actually dedicated to take every single holiday off. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get work out of this guy Thursday and Friday. So what I did on Monday and Tuesday is I cracked the whip. And I was like, all right, what my thing is, what circles do we need to close? What do we need to get wrapped up? What do we need to get into the client's hands so it's in their ball, on their side of the court, if that makes sense?
You cracking the whip on Tuesday, you paid price for that on Tuesday night.
Oh yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, Conor was at his max. I think you guys tuned in last week. The heat got to him, and then the heat got to him again. And then hey Natalie, how are you? I cracked the whip, but you know the thing is like sometimes it's just something that you got to do to be able to get through. And then so you got the holiday day to recoup, and you got some golf coming up this weekend.
Yep. So this weekend will be golf, and then Tuesday is golf, and then who knows what happens then. So
yeah.
Hi, Natalie. Hello, Norman.
Hey, Norm. How are you?
Norman on there too.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining. Okay, so today what we have for you guys is a couple of different things on how to pivot and shift whether it's a holiday or sometimes what happens is as the weather gets warmer, people are like itching to get out of the office and not have to work so much. So we briefly want to talk to you guys about streamlining your processes and being able to do certain tips and tricks, which you've got some cool stuff on email that you had mentioned yesterday for me to do. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. So we'll touch base on that. And then if you have recommendations or if you have techniques, add them to the comments so that way people can like kind of experience them and test them and see what might work for them and not. So for me, when it comes to summer, what I have to work really, really hard on, because here's the deal. My personality is on the summer, I'm big on connecting with people and like doing different stuff. I want to work on multiple things at one time. And then in winter, I'm more into, I want to do a lot of strategy and a lot of theory and a lot of research and a lot of content creation, if that makes sense.
And for summer, for me, I just want to sit outside with a cigar. Give me a cigar, give me a drink. I'll sit in the backyard and fuck work.
You do love your summertime. Like last summertime, we took a lot of time off. But I think that the key balance is figure out what things are required and what are needed to be done specifically. And then so my goal with myself is anytime my ass is in my seat, I'm like lit and I'm on. So I may not know specifically what's happening and what's going on. Like I know a lot of people like to like schedule out the day before what they're doing the next day. Personally, me, I get a little overwhelmed with that because my energies and my moods might be in a certain area. However, I did have a teacher help me reinstate theme days, which works really, really well for me. And I forgot at the beginning of the business, I did this. I had specific days that I did specific tasks or things, if that makes sense. And then I kind of got away from it, kind of got more into the freedom and kind of like whatever came up, I would tackle, but not be super stressed out. So I just harnessed back in on the theme days the last 3 weeks, and that's helped substantially.
And that works really well for you.
Yeah.
I hate, and hate is probably
you used that word multiple times already today.
Hate is probably too nice of a word.
Hey, James, thanks for joining.
I definitely don't like the theme day doing things, you know. If Fridays, okay, we're going to work on billing, and Tuesday, all right, we're going to work on concept.
Fridays are always good to work on billing, by the way.
Yeah, well, Friday is good for billing, but rarely is it that I can just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be creative. You know, that doesn't work for me.
But you're like, from a standpoint, your version of creative is different than a lot of other people, though. Like my version of creative is creating like artsy things and content and all that jazz. Your version of creation is like analytics and systems and processes, and it's like not easy creation either. This guy like gets into the weeds, but it's good weeds because it streamlines our process.
If I can spend 12 hours working on something to save an hour in the future, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but that's what I'll do. I'll spend my 12 hours, get it all done. But if it's a task that I have to do 2 or 3 times, then now that task is just a click of a button. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So little things like that, you know, even the reports, we run, you know, analytics reports for clients and stuff. And every month we have to send out an analytics report. Yeah. And I can sit there and type everything up and do all the graphs, and it'll take me 4 hours to do it. Or I can have a script that does a majority of the process for me, and then I just need to come in and write all my notes to go with it. Yes. And I'm done with the process in about 2 hours. Yeah. So, you know, little things, but anyway.
So the one thing that I noticed, and this was kind of, I had to learn this the hard way, I guess is the easiest way to say it. I would wind up scheduling myself for long days, long hours, and kind of push myself through the projects and be like, I have these 50 million things on my task list. I have to get it all done. And I would force myself to work whenever I was tired, I was exhausted, I was hungry. And it would always take me 2 to 3 times longer to get the stuff done. Now with some tweaks of learning me and my personality, and granted, I do the project management, I do the sales and marketing, I do some design, and then the creation and stuff like that. I have to like make sure that I hold myself pretty accountable to get specific stuff done. But if I'm low on fumes and I'm hungry, I know not to get into creative right then and there. Instead, my first priority for myself is to make sure I can get myself fed, or if I need to do like a small meditation or go for a walk, or I have to find I have these little things that reset me and re-trigger me, if that makes sense. And if Conor is like low on energy, I know that I'm going to have to apply some more time for him because I help recharge you in energy. And then so he might have something super complex that he normally can like stream through and not have a problem at all. Like I would have a problem if I sat in his seat, but he'll not have a problem at all. And then some days your energy might actually be a little off, where he has me come and watch and sit, and him explaining it to me specifically, and me being in attendance helps him work it through his brain. And then slowly but surely you start to kind of tap in and get a little bit better, and then you like work through it. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining. So I think that like the key hint is trying to figure out like what works for you, what doesn't work for you.
Well, going on that, so with the theme days and the stack days and stuff like that, one thing that works really well for you is having meetings back to back within a day. So you're setting a time limit. Your meeting can't be more than an hour and a half because you've got another meeting 15 minutes after that, or a half hour after that.
Right.
So you having setting those meeting days, so that would be an entire day out of the week or every 2 weeks, whatever way you schedule it. Yeah. For me, on the other hand, if I have to do 2 meetings in a day, I'm shot the next day.
But here's the interesting thing. Okay, so he believes his perception is he's shot. So I'm going to stretch you a little bit, because oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I have so many things to share.
Let's move on.
So many things to share. Okay, so I think like perception-wise, you feel that you're worn out, but you actually get your bucket filled when you have like 2 to 3 meetings. Now, I will say by the end of the day, he doesn't have energy to communicate any further with anybody else. So I will say like your energy's used and you're tapped out. But the interesting thing, and this is something that you guys might have to learn yourself, the interesting thing is him being in front of people actually recharges his batteries, and all the stuff that you research and you do actually gets applied right then and right there, if that makes sense. It
does, but I go into severe burnout
You believe you do.
At the end of that day, I'm useless.
Yeah, I think burnout is the wrong word to use. I think you just get a little tired. Like you're depleted. That's it.
Yeah, get a little tired, get a little cranky.
And we just know, like, so here's the deal is whenever I control the calendar, I know don't go past 3 meetings a day. Like now we've worked where we don't go past 2 for him specifically. Like for me, I can normally like hammer them out, but still I think that the key hint with meetings just in general, or calls or webinars or whatever you guys do on your end, it's to figure out what is the intention of the meeting in the first place. So we are very like, we pay attention to our calendar a lot, and we don't just add fluff stuff anymore, if that makes sense. So like we could easily go and grab coffee with somebody to make a connection. Sure. Are we about helping other people? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if we are not able to help that person, or if we can't make a connection some other way, then more likely we don't get it scheduled on the calendar. So like we get a telesales from somebody wanting us to try a software and we've never heard of the software before, we're just going to politely say, hey, thank you so much for your call. We're not interested at this time. And they might actually try to hard sell us a little bit more, but no, at the end of the day, like I think you have to learn how to protect your own calendar, because you're also protecting your energy.
Well, and even with that, I mean, if somebody is contacting us for something like that, send me the white paper, send me the PDF, send me the demo, and if I have time, I'll go check it out. And then after that, then I can talk about scheduling a meeting. We have some funny stories back and forth. We won't share them now, but they'll try to get a hold of Conor, and then you won't be able to get a hold of them. So then they try to run it through me and say that they spoke to Conor and I'm supposed to be on their calendar. And it's pretty funny, like hearing the banter back and forth on the techniques that they do. And I came from years of sales, so I know pretty much all the techniques. And I'm like, nope, he's not interested. But real quick, Casey, you said very difficult for me to schedule creativity for my jewelry. It comes when it comes. Yeah. So the thing is like for you, you have a unique and strong creative muse. So it might just come whenever you need it to come. Here's the deal for you. I would recommend change the language from difficult, right? So like difficult's a pretty heavy, and you might actually find that your schedule doesn't open up for you to be able to do things that you want to get done and get accomplished because of the use of that one word specifically. I used to do that all the time. One thing that one of my teachers had recommended is change it to produce, right? So like instead of I have to get this done or I have to get this scheduled, I'm going to produce A, B, and C. And then all of a sudden you get a little bit more excited and a little bit more energized, and then you could create things. I know that you're really, really good at what you do, so it might just take a little bit longer time, if that makes sense, to get things done. And even the have to, want to, need to. Yep, or should. Shoulds get pretty heavy too. Yeah, I guess should kind of falls in there too. I thought you said fuck. I was like, shoulds fuck it. I was like, yes, you should fuck. I'm sorry, guys. It's like, yes, you should. My mind got super excited there for a second. Having to do something is always a challenge.
But and there's like certain things that in order for a business to run, there's certain things that will need to be completed, right? So you can even feel the language difference there too. I think sometimes people can get super overwhelmed if they're like, I should be doing A, B, and C, but I'm not really in the mood for it, or I don't have the energy. You're going to have to discern if it's you just putting it off, or if you're holding yourself back. You'll have to figure out energetically what that is, like if you're sabotaging or just procrastinating, right? So like I used to have optimistic procrastination is what I call it. So it's that personality. It's like, oh, don't worry about doing it right now. You'll have plenty of time next week. And then everything would stack one on top of another on top of another. And I would be completely overwhelmed because whenever I looked at all the folders and all the things I had to do, there was like scientifically not enough hours within that week time frame to get it done. So my little self was saying, oh no, you have plenty of time. You're a rock star. You'll get it done. So I actually coined that to optimistic procrastination, because like at the end of the day, it was still procrastination. It was just me adding a coat of paint of complete bullshit at the time.
Let's be honest. You put your head in the sand and you hope for the best.
Pretty much. I was like, oh, it'll all figure itself out. But just like energetically and business wise and just mentally, it will catch up. So you just got to figure that part out.
But
yourself.
going a little further on there. So there are certain times, and we kind of talked a little bit last week about it, where you can spend too long at the office and then processes or projects or whatever take much longer than what they should.
Right.
And I forget completely where I was going with all of that.
Thanks for joining, Ashley. Hopefully things are going good on your end.
I think more the item where I was going with it was that if you are planning out your day and you're looking at all your tasks and stuff, I guess the item that I have in my head is that not everything has to be completed today.
Yep.
So if there's a task list and you've run out of time, that's for tomorrow.
Yep.
And if you need to contact your client and say, hey, I didn't get it done. I thought I was going to get it done and I didn't. Then you have to do that.
Yeah, I think at some point, whenever you're managing yourself and managing the business, you have to kind of figure that out and tweak it a little, right? What I see happen a lot, especially I'm going to talk to the freelancers specifically, and freelancers are not just people that do website design. It could be anybody contracting or anybody in trades. What happens is they onboard so much business and then they get into that, they kind of get a little bit overwhelmed because they're not sure how to schedule, how to get things done, or they're seeing everything that's due and they feel like it's due right now. It's really, really critical and essential for you to learn how to schedule out your time and do different things. A lot of people go in business specifically for themselves because they want the freedom. They want the freedom to be their own boss. They want the freedom to create their own hours, their own pricing, all of that stuff, super fun. But at the end of the day, you still have to be fucking accountable and you have to get it done and you have to deliver what you're actually promising for something, right?
And 10% more.
Yeah, and you have to be able to set yourself different. So if you constantly are finding yourself like overwhelmed and dropping the ball, I don't know, maybe you find an accountability partner, maybe you find a system that can help you streamline that. Like we've gone through so many different softwares for project management since we've been open, and we finally found one that we really like. But you have to learn that. And some days you have to just kick yourself in the ass and be like, look, there's no fucking around. We got to get this done. So here's one technique that I will tell you. If I'm feeling sluggish whenever I get into the office, this is a technique that gets me going pretty fast, and it actually annoys Connor because he hears it going off. So I actually create a small list of tasks and I set my timer for 20 minutes, right? And I start on task number 1, set the timer for 20 minutes, and I keep going until that timer task goes off, right? So if I'm not done with that task, then I set the timer for another 20 minutes, and by then I should technically be done with the task, if not moved on to the next. And I continue the 20-minute task timer for 10 cycles, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden what that does is I find I'm getting more tasks done within a 20-minute time frame. So I might start the first 20 minutes and only get one task done, right? But as the timer keeps going off, I ask myself, oh, am I doing what I'm meant to do? Or am I fucking around and over on Facebook and like checking stuff that I shouldn't be checking, right? So when the timer goes off, I automatically look at what am I producing, how am I getting it done, and how am I getting all this stuff going. And by the time I get to the 7th timer set, I'm like streamlining, getting super, like a volume of things done that I did not expect.
Keep in mind that the 7th timer means that it's now 2.5 hours later.
It is, but here's the deal. But what I'm saying is I could actually touch anywhere between 5 projects or I can touch 15 projects depending on what those tasks are. So like those tasks could be whatever our industry is, or it could be sending off emails or placing phone calls. It could be anything. But the whole point is when I do this technique, I'm usually walking into the office and I'm sluggish. So the overall objective is, how can I get my brain to the point where I'm producing and I'm getting things done and I'm getting circles closed, if that makes sense. And then whether it's 2.5 hours or not, usually by an hour and a half, I'm lit up and I'm ready and I'm getting more stuff done. Does that make sense at all? Hey, Ashley. Yeah, communication is key. Do you feel like talking about onboarding a client? So what specifically do you have questions on?
But yes.
Yeah, but yes.
And the other part?
Okay, so do you sometimes dream of a timer bell going off when you're out of work? No, however, I will tell you this. When I waited tables, I used to have dreams all the time of waiting tables. All the time. Like, I forgot a Coke, or I forgot to do this thing, and I forgot to do this other thing, and forgot to do this other thing. And then I found and I utilized it and realized that I just love to make sure that I stand behind my follow-ups. So if I ever have a dream about waiting tables and I'm forgetting Cokes, usually that's a key indicator that I'm not following up somewhere that I told somebody that I would, or that I'm not following up with something specifically for myself, if that makes sense.
And then with regards to that and my answer, do you ever dream about doing this and whatnot when I don't have work? Unfortunately, that little part right there, when I don't have work to do, there's work that I'm not doing because I don't feel like doing it, but there's always work to be done. Now, whether that work is my own personal stuff to do,
right?
Whether I'm supposed to be.
Rarely ever is it for him cleaning house. Rarely ever.
Yes, no, that
rarely ever. That doesn't happen. That doesn't make it to the list.
So that's $250 and somebody else coming in and cleaning the house. That's not me.
It's a conversation we're having with other professionals. Yeah. So back to your onboarding for a client. So. Yeah, I will say onboarding for a business and a clientele is typically different for all industries, right? So the key hints that I would give you for onboarding is something that we did probably 1.5 years ago. When it comes to SEO specifically, we start all projects on the 1st or the 15th of the month. Mm-hmm. When we very first started the business, what we would do is we would start people within 3 business days. But then what we found was we were constantly like restarting another project, 3 days later, another project, 3 days later, another project. And it didn't matter how we scheduled the stuff out. All of it wound up being due at the exact same time because we were usually waiting on communication from somebody else, and then when you get it back for you, back and forth. So that's one technique that we did for onboarding clients.
Yeah, and that's rough. When you're onboarding just in the middle of the week, or you start something in the middle of the week, usually what happens is something is going to get dropped.
Yeah.
If let's say I onboard a client on Tuesday of this week and I talk to a new client on Friday, well, when I come in on Monday, I'm still in Friday mode. I haven't swapped back to the client that has actually paid me to actually get the work done.
Yep.
So what we've done with regards to the onboarding process on the 1st and the 15th, I know that on the 18th of every month, this is the task that I need to be doing between the 18th and the 20th. I'm supposed to be doing this task. Now, the task may be for 1 client or it might be for 4 clients, but that's the tasks that are supposed to be done at that time.
Yep.
And I can speed up the process in that regards, that if I know something is due on Friday and I have nothing on my plate on Monday, then I'll go ahead and start that task now and I'll be completed before the deadline.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the big thing, especially in the onboarding process, is, well, number 1, communication. And Ashley, you talked about that.
Yep.
But the making sure that communication is right. So we have a list of steps that we have to do in order to bring a client on board.
Right.
And everything from the meeting that you're having, the invoice being generated, when that gets paid, when the tasks get created. But the big part that really helps in all of that is a decent project management software.
Yeah, I think at any point when you're running a business, whether you're just launching or you've been years and years into it, you need to figure out what your internal process is at the very beginning, and then figure out how to make the onboarding process as crystal clear as you possibly can. So a lot of times, and this goes all the way back to the prospecting and quoting, if you have too many packages so we have some people that offer 10 services, right? Coaches are perfect for this. They offer 10 different services. They can help people in any different way, whether it's business coaching, personal coaching, financial, health and fitness, whatever the hell it is, right? And what happens is whenever they introduce themselves, they actually wind up trying to pitch the people on all the services. So I think you have to like narrow down what specifically is the ideal for the specific person. Start with the prospect process there. And then whenever you go to onboard, make sure that you communicate, okay, this is the next step and here's how you're going to do it, right? So by the time we finish our initial like sit down powwow meeting, we've done a handshake. Hey, we want to move forward. We want to be partners. Okay, cool. I'm going to issue you an invoice. Once we receive payment, then I'll schedule your business project within 3 business days. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to start in 3 business days, but I will actually get them on the schedule to be able to execute and start. And then we wind up sending a follow-up email of here's the next steps or here's the other areas. Every project for us is a little bit different. However, our project management has all of the steps internally, so those parts usually never change.
And those were all created by us.
Yes.
So the different tasks, collecting the passwords for this, or the access for something else, or the keys for something else. And when I say project management software, really it's project management tool, and that can be anything you want. If that's an Excel file that makes life easy for you, awesome. Mary. But, we actually, when we were doing some blog, so we had our own internal staff, we were doing writings and stuff like that. We had a poster board that was 6 foot by 4 foot.
It was. Hey, Carolina, how are you?
We had Post-it notes of all different colors.
All different.
And the different grid lines on the board. But literally, that was the project management for the
That was
blog.
before we actually found a software.
But, that worked
It
perfect.
worked so well because you got done and you took one Post-it and added it to the other side.
So whether it's you have your concept item and then that goes into the get approval from the client.
Yeah.
Now you've got your email out. When that comes back, that moves on to the next column.
Yeah.
And now you've gotten your approval. You got to have a writer start writing it. Then you got to review it. Then you got to get back to the client and so forth. But with the project management, that is key to any sort of success. So whether it's a piece of paper stuck on a wall, whether it's a whiteboard and you're writing on it, I've got a real estate person, and they live and die by their whiteboard on the wall.
Yep.
Moving names from here to here, finding houses and so forth. So that is their ideal project management tool. For me, it's software. If it's not online and if I can't access it by my phone and track everything, then,
and I think the key hint is figure out what works for you and then just be open to being willing to adapt. So the other thing too, this is really, really popular, is sometimes what I do is I look at our 3-6 months, I look at our quarter and say, in an ideal world, again, I plan for success. In an ideal world, if I was to onboard 5 clients, what projects would I want? And how would I schedule them? And how do I make room for them, right? Because with it being a 2-person operation now and we hold everything internal, we're super focused on making sure that we have clientele that we have great energy and synergy with. At the same time, we always still have to constantly prospect in open space for more people to come, right? What I see happens a lot of times is people want more business, but yet they don't already schedule their days for if they already won and had those projects, right? So this might be a little bit complicated at the very beginning, but stick with me because I'll frame it out for you. So if I wanted to onboard 5 new clients, right, and that adds 15 extra hours to our week, I technically should already be time blocking those projects to come in. And whatever I do during those times, I would actually use that time to onboard new people. So whether it's me doing teleprospects or sending emails out or engaging in social media or content creation, but the whole point and key is my time is already being utilized for those time blocks. So whenever I onboard, the time is already there, if that makes sense. And then it amplifies, and then you just readjust and rechange, if that makes sense. Versus hoping and begging that the phone rings or that you get somebody communicating on social media. We see with a lot of designers, freelance specifically, what happens is they want new business, they get that one website design, they block their entire schedule off for that one project, and when that project's done in 60 days, they're freaking the fuck out because they don't have any other business coming in the door, right? And then all of a sudden they go through the cycle of they're kind of freaking out. They're like, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? Do I need to go look for a job? Not go look for a job? So instead, again, it goes back to managing yourself and your business. Figure out how can you run, if your goal is to be a millionaire, schedule your day like a millionaire would, right? So I'm not saying go and book a jet. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know. This guy would be happy with that.
There's a place down in Omaha called Links, Jet Links. Awesome prices, and it's on a share. So it's like a timeshare that you purchase for jet travel. So,
but I think the whole point is, like, you have to be ready and you have to be prepared to expand when you need to. And then, believe it or not, all the other stuff gets fit into your schedule.
Yeah, the big thing on the scheduling is to have gaps in your schedule that you can do the prospecting or the sales. And if you're doing your prospecting at that time and you bring on that client, that has now filled that spot in the schedule, and then you move forward.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you are tapped out. So if my limit for dealing with SEO clients is a total of 10 people, if number 11 comes through the door and says, hey, I want to onboard, sorry, dude, I can't help you, but hey, I'll put you at the top of my list when I call you back.
Right.
So at a certain
And that
point,
doesn't happen. He sends them to me because nobody wants to be heard that they're going to be put on a wait list to be able to get SEO business. So we do accept new clients.
Yes.
It's just a matter of how to be able to schedule it. And again, wearing the right hats. So like we know
and
whenever.
Different tasks. So different tasks do different things. And you can always move things around. But at the end of the day, you have to know where your limits are. And that is your limit. And you've got one or two choices.
So here's where we're going to agree to disagree. That's where your perceived limit is at the point. Because you're going to find, you always find, this is the adorable husband and wife, you always find a way to streamline things. Like that's one thing that you do that's really, really cool.
You can always do something better. But
this is where I pet him and piss him off more, right, guys?
So I guess my thing is that there is a limit. At least if you have a gap in your schedule, that is your limit. I don't see how you're going to continue to do more work, continue to have that gap to continue to onboard new people. You've run out of fucking time, and this comes into your pessimistic optimism, whatever crap thing it was earlier.
Optimistic procrastinator.
This is why you would fall into the
so here's the thing is I'll counter with Conor's higher judgment wisdom. So Conor would typically say to his own answer right now, at some point in your business, you're going to raise your prices.
Definitely.
Right?
Yes.
So at some point, if you're in theory
30-70
tapped out, if you're limited to your specific time, specific projects, at that point you would raise your price higher to be able to generate more money, to be able to outsource, whether it's an assistant or streamline a process or do different stuff. I think
But what did you just do?
I personally, I don't think you could be limited. I don't think that.
But that was your limit right there. So instead of, I've got extra time to do more stuff, you said, fuck that. Let me go ahead and raise my rates.
Yeah.
And continue on with the limit of time that you had.
I think you're twisting that. I said to be able to go and get something from somewhere else to streamline the process.
Yes, but you've got to remove something else.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining.
Hello.
You're getting a heated Treacy debate right now. The difference between somebody holding sales and marketing versus somebody that produces a lot.
Yeah, I get to do all the grunt work, but this debate, I would say, this is going to continue for the next 2 days. So,
no, it's not. Like at the end of the day, like I think so here's where I'm coming from, just to wrap up on my end. And I respect and honor what you're saying. Like I get what you're saying. I think at any point in time when you run a business, you're gonna feel like you only have so much time.
Who agrees with me?
Yeah, okay. So you're going to feel like you only have so much time.
Yes.
But if we actually, from the very beginning, our first year, said, all right, we're going to stop where we feel limited, we wouldn't have grown to the capacity that we have or that we did, right? So you're constantly like looking back and figuring out how do you readapt, how do you rechange, how do you create different packages, how do you maybe do group classes versus one individual class. Sure. And I think specifically for us, like where our limit could possibly come in if we had one is we know that our capacity is 24 website designs in 1 month. Now,
because we've done it.
We've done it before, and we were maxed out at that point. Like, we didn't have any creative fumes left, if that makes sense. Did we make awesome money? Yeah. Was it a hell of a fun of a challenge? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, like, that would be a perceived limit. Could we go past that? Well, yeah, if we outsource certain things or if we raise the cost again so we could outsource additional things, then yeah, we could have possibly hit that threshold again. But I think just to scale all the way back, I think sometimes if you automatically say that this is your limit and this is as far as you go. So if you say I can only work 40 hours a week, right? You're only going to produce work and prospects that would hit that 40 hours a week.
Right.
But if you can figure out how to be able to stream your process where typical 40 hours would, like normal 40 hours work would stay at 40, but you can streamline it where it's actually 20, then you actually can double the work that you're doing and you're producing. So it's just a different philosophy scenario that we both have that added a little bit of banter. Let's see what Ashley said. I have a certain amount of time that I want to devote. The criteria is based on pay, bundle, etc. Yeah, so, and here's the deal for you, Ashley, specifically. Alone time is going to be where you recharge, right? And we face that too. Like we both love alone time. Like I used to think for years I was an extrovert, and I honestly now don't believe in introvert or extrovert now that I got into energy. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit, but I honor and respect anybody that believes that. But what I can tell you is I do require a certain percentage of alone time because I am so creative and I'm constantly creating. So yeah, I mean, you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you and kind of go from there. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, so let's shift gears because he's like really steamy. Can you guys feel it? Like he's like, I want to be right. Who agrees with me? He's really good at debates, by the way.
It's not that I want to be right. It's just that I am right and you haven't come around yet. So, you'll get there. It's okay.
I love it. Okay, so what is new within the Google World updates? Oh, there's our neighbor, Bob. Hey, Bob.
Google stuff.
Yeah.
I honestly.
Are you done? Are you tapped out? Conor wants to be done. He's like, I want her to agree with me.
One thing that I do want to touch on from earlier, everybody waved to Bob. Everybody waved back.
Hi,
Bob. Optimizing time and getting things done within your time and so forth. And we had talked earlier.
He's going right back. He's oh.
I'm going back to before that when you had mentioned I had found some different stuff inside of Gmail.
Oh, Ashley, did she see your kilt picture?
Like the pink shirt, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So one of the ways you can optimize your time is even if it's after normal work hours, if you have something that you were supposed to get out to your client or you want to get out to your client the next day, you can always write your email and then use the options for send later. So Outlook, the software, that has options in there. You can set when it is you want it to send or send later.
Yeah.
I use Streak, which is, you can integrate that into Gmail,
right?
And that has an option where you can set a timer. And the neat thing with theirs is that if you're replying to a client and you set a time for when it is that you're going to send it out, if that client responds before your response actually goes out, then it doesn't send the mail. It just pops back up in your feed again. So that's kind of handy. But if you're coming up at the end of the day and you need to get certain things out, or it's the middle of the day, you need to get it out. It has to be out before the end of the day. But maybe you can't get that phone call. You don't need that phone call to distract you from other things.
Right.
Write your email. Use a send to later. Let that send out at 4 or 4:30, whatever it is.
Right.
And then you're off and running.
Yeah, so, I know that for you do that a lot. I personally like to send emails right in the moment and right at the time. Like I get that there's a chance that somebody's going to call and ask questions. The thing that drives you crazy quite a lot is I actually will silence my phone the majority of the time. And then I get a little bit better with it now with prospecting. Like I still answer the call, or Conor keeps his ringer on, so he'll actually ping me because you get caller ID on your laptop. He'll ping me and let me know, hey, pick up the phone type of scenario. But I think you just got to figure out what works for you. But that is one of the tools is scheduling out email, and he's received a lot of success from that.
For me, it works because otherwise I'm buried in code, and the last thing that I necessarily need is to answer the phone and be completely distracted.
Sure.
What happens generally?
Instead, he just has a wife walk in the door and be like, "Guess what, honey? Like,
you get to talk to those people.
Did you see the so-and-so emails?" And he's like, "Go away." But anyways. Don't want that ringer.
Yeah, if you're in code or you're in Create or whatever, you'll actually start to forget what it is you were doing. You know, if I'm writing stuff on Friday and then we log out and come back in on Monday.
You shared like a comic about that on Facebook. Yeah. It was something about like doing the code or whatever. It was like, oh, this is great. I'll do this tomorrow or Monday or whatever. And they come back and look at the code. They're like, what the fuck did I just create?
And literally that happened. You know, I work on it's a project that I'm working on that I've been working on for about the last 8 months.
Yeah.
We do little tweaks to the software and improving for the client and so forth. But I may not touch it for a month and a half, 2 months. And then I've got to go back in and figure out what the hell was I actually doing and thinking when I made this little line of code.
That's why I'm such a good note taker.
Yeah,
if I'm there, I take notes.
But, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's all I got with regards to that. Google stuff. Let's go WordPress stuff real quick.
Yeah.
WordPress had a new release that came out, 3.9.7. It fixes a security bug that I talked about 2 weeks ago.
Thanks for joining, guys.
The new update should be okay to run for pretty much any site. WordPress, for the most part, pushed out the update automatically for people. If you are seeing errors, please let me know so I can document what those errors might be.
Yep.
Not that I necessarily want to fix them for you, but I will. But certainly if you see errors because of another plugin, let me know so I can document it and then deal with developers and so forth.
Sure.
Just for my own knowledge, because if you're running into it, I'm going to run into
or a client or a prospect.
Yep.
We get a lot of calls actually from people that maybe they designed their own website and then they have these updates come through and they're like, what happened? All my stuff got deleted. So it can get pretty sticky. Again, we always say this in all videos, make a backup.
Make a backup.
And don't just make a backup, but download the backup on your desktop or laptop, right? So it's not enough just to rely on the web hosting doing automated backups or you manually doing it. You actually need to have a copy of a download somewhere, some version of it in case something happens.
Earlier this week, I was talking with, I was actually trying to purchase a product from a company, and I reached out to their support, and it actually had gone almost 3 weeks, and I hadn't had anything back.
Yeah.
So I reached out to, I knew one of the owners on Facebook.
Nothing like a personal line to the owner.
I skipped past sales rep, manager reps,
live chat,
reps,
like
everybody.
Chain of command.
Went right to the CEO and said, dude, what the hell? Why is this not working?
Right.
And then I got to see the copied sets of emails going back down the chain of you screwed up, and so forth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I talked to them, and I ended up talking to one of the managers eventually. We had a good conversation just about what was going on. But the big thing that had actually happened, and nobody in the sales department knew.
Yeah.
But their marketing team had decided that they were going to change a process, and they disabled all of the order buttons. And instead of the order button going into to actually purchase a product, it was just sending an email. But the emails all went into a black hole because the sales team never knew that was going on.
Right.
So generate your backups for sure, but test your website on a regular basis.
Yeah, we see that happen a lot. Like a lot of people just don't walk through their website like they're an end user. Definitely do that.
Contact forms are the same way. You know, fill them out. If you haven't received one in the last couple of days, fill it out. Make sure that it's still working.
Sure.
They're computers. They're going to break eventually. Something's going to go wrong.
For sure.
So make your backups. Test your websites.
Yeah.
Test your security system, the alarm codes, and everything else.
So 2 more things to hone in real quick. You actually got a email request from somebody that's a freelancer that is in a project and is trying to figure out how to be able to get out of producing that project.
Yes.
So do you want to give some feedback? This would be mainly targeted to probably other freelancers, but I think some business owners could probably utilize the advice as well.
Yeah, I think
so. Without giving too much information or getting too detailed, because we're at 42 minutes.
Yes. So one of the things is that so they were contacted by a person to build a website for them, and that's perfectly fine. They were going to build it. That's what they do for their job, is they build websites. Well, they build it on the side, but that's what they do for their job. The problem was that the owner of the business didn't want to listen to certain advice.
Right.
So there were advices about how to file taxes, because they're selling an e-commerce product. Therefore, they need to collect taxes in different counties and different states because of the product it is they're selling.
Right.
So there's a whole debate in Congress and all that kind of stuff. So you can go check all that out. But essentially, this developer was advising the client of these certain things that you need to do.
Yeah.
Even things along the lines of copyright and
Sure.
royalties
Yep.
and stuff like that.
Right.
When it comes to images. But the owner themselves of the business didn't want to listen to any of that and just said, build me the website and don't worry about it.
Right. Yep.
So at that point, you know, it's in my shoes at that point, if somebody said, you know, continue forward, you know, there's two ways I look at it. Number one, yes, there's a contract that says that anything that I put online, you own the rights to and so forth, and that I have permission to build them within the website, that you've gotten permission from whoever it is that you can use it. Let's say Nike, for example.
You with those names.
I'll use Coca-Cola. How about that? They're bigger. More money on that.
You're doing so good.
Basically, that you have permission to use those images within your website, or you can modify them, or you can sell their products and so forth.
Yeah.
So anyway, this person did not get any of that information, and me knowing as a designer, I'm probably not going to touch the project anymore. Not because my contract is ironclad enough that the client that is hiring me to do the work, it states in there that they agree to hold harmless and indemnify and protect third parties and so forth. But at the end of the day, this is my business that we're talking about. So while I want to help that business owner and I want to launch that website for them, at a certain point, I got to look at what the risk is on my end. And at that point, do I really want to take that risk? So I think with any project that you onboard, you've kind of got to look at things and decide if it's going to have a negative effect on your business. Is it worth onboarding that business?
I think it's kind of interesting with this specific scenario, without to give too much away just for privacy. I think at any point in time, you've got to determine with your business, what is your systems and what is your processes, right? So it does sound like it was a favor for a friend. Yep. So first start there. It was free. It was gratis, favor for a friend, right? Hey, I've got some spare time. Let me go ahead and do this. From the logistics, it sounded like it was a long process. So it's been in talks and going for a year and a half to almost 6 months or something to that extent. Yeah. Timeline is not relevant to a certain extent, but long story short, the circle has been open for a while, and there's been a lot of different dialogues, expectations, and who's doing what, what's doing where, scenarios. At the end of the day, copyright stuff is not shit to take lightly. Like, it can shut down your business if you do it wrong. And that even goes for royalty-free images. A lot of people think, oh, royalty-free, I'm good, there's not a big deal. Here's the deal, is people that actually own those images, that actually took the photo, can go to the royalty-free places and say, remove my stuff. And if you purchase them from the free website and that royalty-free website didn't take it down, you're actually liable. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of loopholes in what do you do, what do you not do. Purchase, like for us, we do stock photos, we pay for it, that way it's there. And we at least have the stamp to say, hey, we have permission to utilize this for this and for our clientele.
But should that photographer at any point in time say, I revoke my royalty-free
Thanks for joining, guys.
Then you would have to remove it off your website. There's two cases right now going on. There's one East Coast, had to do with a photographer who had made a long exposure of a city scene, and a city decided to use or crop out part of his image and use that on their website. It actually went to court, and the judge came down and said that that basically there was no infringement on the rights.
Sure.
Which everybody in the graphics and photography world were all like, what the hell? How can this? You took the image, you took a piece of it, and now you're saying, no, you don't have to pay for that. So that's all in the courts. We're going to figure out what's happening there. But the other one that was just 2 days ago, I read about it. The guy at the U.S. Post Office did a picture, the Forever stamps that had come out. They used a picture of Lady Liberty on the stamp or whatever. Turns out whoever designed that, whoever put that forward, they actually used a image from iStock that was an image of the Statue of Liberty in Las Vegas. So not the real one. But anyway, the artist who actually built the Statue of Liberty in Vegas sued the post office, and they were able to get their money back for using that rights.
I mean, you have to be careful with it, but to go all the way back to the very beginning of the story of this specific person, right? Yes. So if you're in a project and something has changed, you do have a right to come back and say, hey, look, like things have changed, here's scenarios, here's situations. So whenever I heard of this specific situation, right, because there was kind of some guilt on the developer side of, it's a friend, I promised that I would do this, and things have changed and feedback's not being accepted. So from the designer standpoint, the easiest way, since it was going to be in WordPress, the easiest way to complete and honor their side of it is, my recommendation was put the structure together, right? Put just staged images inside there, deliver directions on how to upload the specific images for specific places, provide website training docs, if that makes sense. Again, the thought process is you've committed to something to say, hey, I'll help out with this. And it's trying to figure out how can you close the circle the fastest and streamline the process, because based on the feedback and situation, the business owner is not willing to negotiate or do any process different, right? So you can actually hand deliver that. So it's a turnkey website where they would just go in and produce their own images and their own information. And you can literally say, hey, here you go, here's your package. Put all the ribbons, bells, and whistles. You're done. You're good. Just add your own images. And then at that point, that circle closes. Yeah, and at that point, the circle closes for that developer or whatnot. And then the guilt in the honoring their word is kind of done, right? I think at any point you can change your mind or change the decision. We do that quite often if something changes dramatically or the communication is just not there.
If the scope of a project has completely changed, I mean, you've got to go back to the drawing table.
Thanks for joining, guys.
Is this a project that you're wanting to do? Or are you being compensated for it?
Right.
So there's even that end of it. So.
And I think you've got to try and figure that part out. One last thing that we had on the list was people trying to figure out how to be able to generate new sales prospects and sales leads, right? It's kind of interesting how you can go about this. You can do all different types of marketing. From us being in the roots that we are, we're always going to recommend people to utilize some form of SEO, right? The reason for that is you're actually going after the proactive clients. So it's usually people typing in and searching for specific stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I think it's really important that you make sure every single day or several times within the week, you're constantly like looking at how can you onboard more prospects? How can you make more calls? How can you make more connections or follow up with existing clients or old clients that kind of fell off to the wayside, or old prospects, or sending thank you notes? Like, I'm still blown away at how many people don't do thank you notes with everything being electronic. And believe it or not, it's the one thing that we get the most of. Oh my gosh, I was so excited that you sent me a thank you note. Like, that was super cool.
We are keeping the United States Postal Office in business.
I mean, it's just one of those small things that, like, it gets where it needs to go and it hits the right area because it's a personalized note. So there's a couple different ways to go about that as well. Again, I think at any point in time, you've got to determine, hey, what do I need to generate and how do I need to generate it? This last Saturday, I actually wrote a blog article that'll be published here soon to help people be able to find different ways. It's some of the techniques that I used within our business to keep our pipeline kind of full, as well as what I helped with mentoring and coaching business owners specifically. But you got to do it, right? So, like, that's the key hint is you can get into working in your business, but you also have to work on your business. And how are you going to continuously grow? And how are you going to adapt and change or offer different solutions for different people?
And even,
does that make sense?
Yeah, even from that end, just because something didn't work last year doesn't mean it doesn't work ever. And even though everybody else in the industry says, don't do this because it doesn't work, you should still try it, but maybe you've got a different spin on it.
And here's the other thing that I do, which is I get excited about, right? So, like, every quarter, I put my focus on something different service-wise. Like, I can sell any of our services and any of our consultings based on what the person's actually needing, so the value that we can generate. But every quarter, I pick a different sales aspect that I'm going to hyper-focus on and onboard people for those specific areas, right? So then, like, all of my focus goes into that whenever whenever I don't have people that need custom solutions. And that gives me like a new thing to focus on because every quarter it's different. So whether it's web design or SEO or Kickstarter or pay-per-click, it just like adds a different, I like break it up and it adds different areas.
And it's important to realize that the marketing that you're doing, no matter what form of marketing it is, it may not be converting to a sale now, but maybe it's converting in 2 weeks. Maybe it's converting in 3 months. We have some projects that
you just did research today where it was like somebody came and it would take them 28 days for the full sales cycle.
So there was 2 things I looked at. It was an e-commerce website and we were tracking just the conversion rate. So in the first day, the AdWords that were running, 61% of the people were buying something that day.
Right.
And then when we actually broke it down, well, if 61% of those bought something in that day, that means you've got about 40% that took longer than 1 day for the conversion.
Yeah.
And we actually broke it down that it was 16% took longer than 30 days to pull the trigger and make that sale.
Yeah.
But I went a little further because it's me.
It's just Conor being Conor.
So I looked at the 8-week and the 12-week projections. So now we're talking 3 months. And there was still a 1% that after 12 weeks, they were finally ready to pull the trigger and make the purchase.
Yeah.
So, and we're not talking, in terms of the product
this
price
isn't
range,
flip-flops.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's an investment.
Yeah,
like, that's the easiest way to say it is it's an investment.
The average sale price was $62 or something like that. So it wasn't like they were just, you have to think about making the purchase.
Right.
I guess is what I'm getting to.
But without giving much information away. So, like, at that point, you guys get the gist of it.
Right. So the thing on it anyway is that even though you're marketing for today and you're spending money today and you're looking at what's going out, you have to look at the long term of where that closure rate actually is. And then decide, was the marketing worth it?
And that goes back to, like, you have to track it, right? You have to figure out how to track it and do that. So it looks like Ashley had a question. Security of computer while working out and about in the world. That might be a little complex.
Ooh, yeah, that's in anything and everything.
We are, just a reference, we are not IT people at all. So I will give that kudos to that.
Yeah, the 2 things that I would recommend on that, number 1, always have password protection on your computer, and it kicks in within 30 seconds of leaving your computer. That way, then if you do step up or you do spill a coffee or whatever, that you're able to take care of it and your computer's locked. So that's number 1. Number 2, personally, I don't trust public Wi-Fi anywhere. Now, I will use the Wi-Fi on my phone. I will tether in using
So even whenever we travel, like even if we're in an airport, we don't use the Wi-Fi in the airport. We tether to our phone.
Yep. So that way, then at least it's a secure transmission between your phone and your computer. But there's still risks. I mean, there's always risks.
And it depends on definitely what cell phone plan you have, right? So, like, you don't want to tether if you don't have unlimited data on your cell phone. So just be very aware of that. Like, we're not, like, this is our disclaimer. Don't always listen to the Treacy's advice. Check with your provider of your phone because you might get a $30,000 bill, and that's not cool.
Yeah, right? Years ago, we had a fishing trip. This is many years ago. We actually used a satellite phone in order to get the connection.
It was like many years ago.
Yes. And it was $2.99 a minute.
And it was on my birthday, and you called me.
And I did call
you. He called me on my birthday late at night. I was very excited. It was like we were very first dating. I was like, oh my gosh, he called me on my birthday in the middle of Mexico. You didn't get arrested.
Right? I did not get arrested. And I made a phone call.
Because usually if somebody calls you in the middle of the night in Mexico, you think, oh gosh, I'm supposed to send bail money.
Yeah. Quickly.
So, anything else?
With regards to that and the security, I mean, that's really all I can speak to.
Yeah.
Is what I
Anybody
do
else have any questions before we wrap up? Put them in there. So what else do you got planned for this weekend? You got some golf going on?
What?
You got golf going on?
Yes,
what else?
Got golf.
Anything else? Besides the weather, hopefully the weather sticks with you. You've been kind of really hot lately.
Yeah, I think honestly, a cigar or 2.
Yeah.
Definitely golf. Maybe a movie.
Decompress.
I'll have to go to a movie with earbuds in because I'm old.
I want to see you. I tried to talk him in Sunday. We're going to try and go see the movie Tag. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but I've been watching that trending. I want to look at that. Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Beyond that, I know I have 2 blog articles that I want to write.
Yep.
So I've got to get those finished up and done. I've got them started. So, I mean, I'm halfway there. I got them started.
Yeah, and so from our end, so you guys can be prepared for this a little bit. I don't know if it would be of interest to you or not, but we're looking to do a couple webinars in July for business owners and entrepreneurs specifically. They will be more targeted towards marketing and sales, so how to be able to get stuff done and be able to get it done without feeling super overwhelmed and frustrated. So there's that one thing. In addition to that, we've been requested by multiple people to create accountability groups, so small niche groups for accountability. We do have a number of people that we want to have within the group to kind of make it worth the time, if that makes sense. There will be a small investment just for our own time and prep to be able to help people, but we do have that coming down the pipeline. It's debatable if it'll start in July or August for the accountability because we have a specific number. But we've actually been able to enjoy this journey of live Facebook. We've had 4 countries so far that people tuning in. People all within the U.S., which is super cool. We have questions coming in galore that we try to answer. Some of them are very private questions, so we don't want to share them necessarily on Facebook Live, but they might actually be good answers for like whether it's the webinars or the accountability groups, because what we find is when one person asks a question, it actually helps multiple people. They may not even know that they have the question or how to streamline the process. Yep. So a couple different things. So if you are interested, go ahead and write a little note, comment down below, and then we'll add you to the list and then keep you in tuned for that. But yeah, I think. And
then Ashley, with regards to the weather, it's 85 here today. It's like 2:30. So
we had some good wind, though. We've had some good wind.
It's a lot nicer here right now than it is with you.
Yeah. You can come to Nebraska anytime, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Bring little Lily.
I did see a buddy of mine posted on there. He's in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And it was 90 degrees at 7 a.m. And I think they were getting up to that 118 somewhere in there. So we don't have that, but we did. I mean, the other day was 104 here.
It was pretty toasty. The dogs didn't want to go outside. They were like, screw you, I'm not going to pee. They were done. They were done. They were toasted like a hot dog. Done.
But I do survive. I go outside into the heat, grab my cigar. I mean, I'm religious about not smoking a cigar indoors.
Oh,
ever. Except for the cigar bar. I'll smoke.
Not allowed in the house.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
114 at 10 a.m.
Perfect.
Yeah. Screw that.
Oh, Casey. 81. Nice. Casey, I'm going to come visit you in Alaska. That sounds fun.
Yeah, but it's 81 degrees now, but it'll be like, what, 32 degrees tonight? Something like that. And a bear standing outside, something like that.
She doesn't need a refrigerator. She just put her beer outside. It'll stay cold.
A beer. Night. No, I was talking about a bear.
Oh, bear. Yeah, that's a different type. That's like a totally different category. Well, anyway, thanks so much for joining us live, guys. We will talk to you next Friday. Yeah.
The 13th.
Friday the 13th. Woo! All right. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.